All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gabby Nichols, and I'm the Programs Coordinator with the Canadian Council on Invasive Species. Kelly Sherman, the Communications Coordinator with the Canadian Council, is also joining us today in the background just to assist with the webinar. So thank you for joining us for the third webinar of the National Invasive Species Awareness Week 2020 webinar series. Today's webinar is on reducing the spread of terrestrial invasive species through Play Clean Go. I will start us off by providing a brief introduction to the CCIS's National Play Clean Go program. Afterwards, we will hear from our two guest speakers. So we have Andrea Altherr of the Yukon and Invasive Species Council, followed by Kim Kaiser of the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society in BC. So both Andrea and Kim will be presenting on how they implemented the program in their regions, as well as their successes and challenges through the process. All right, so the Canadian Council on Invasive Species, or CCIS, is a federally registered nonprofit organization which serves as a national coordinated voice and hub to protect Canada from the impacts of invasive species. So created as a result of a Canada-wide call for a strong, national, and inclusive organization to serve as a voice and connect provincial and territorial perspectives across the country. Since 2008, CCIS is focused on preventing the spread and introduction of invasive species into and across Canada through key priority pathways of spread. Today, the CCIS is guided by a four-chamber board of directors, along with various working groups, whose directors and members include federal and provincial territorial governments, Indigenous organizations, industry, and invasive species organizations from across Canada. You can see some of these organizations on the slide in front of you. You also notice in those organizations that there are chapter members as well, representing various provinces and territories from across the country. So to effectively promote invasive species prevention, our national Taking Action campaigns are based on behavior change through community-based social marketing. This approach involves recognizing and removing barriers that keep Canadians from taking action and supporting new barriers to prevent invasive species through specific pathways of spread. So using this technique, we engage key stakeholders, including our chapter members, and create consistent messaging and branding for all programs. This allows us to have a strong national network and a voice across the country. The CCIS has developed programs and resources related to pathways, including firewood movement, forestry, horticulture, pet and aquarium trade, terrestrial recreation, and aquatic recreation. So you can see some of these resources from the various programs and campaigns on the screen there. So top left would be Play Clean Go. To the right, it would be Buy Local, Burn Local. Bottom left is Clean Drain Dry, and then our Bee Plantways program is bottom right. So these campaigns are not meant to replace existing campaigns, but to support and supplement them. So we are working to continue to expand the focus of our Pathways programs based on suggestions and directions from our board of directors and partners. As we continue to grow, we are looking to create campaigns like related to transportation, perhaps into Work Clean Go and Don't Let It Loose. So definitely keep an eye out for some of those programs in the future as we continue to grow. So again, by connecting groups across the country, we improve coordination, reduce duplication of resources, facilitate knowledge sharing, and assist with capacity building. To promote these programs, we further support our partners by hosting education information sharing events, such as our Citizen Science Workshop we held earlier this year, which is one of our biannual workshops that we host. We also host a national forum. Our last one happened in 2019. Additionally, we assist invasive species councils to become established in provinces or territories. We also improve coordination across borders through partnerships with organizations outside of Canada. So we work closely with North American Invasive Species Management Association, also known as NISAW. So getting into Play Clean Go. The goal of this program is to encourage outdoor recreation while protecting valuable natural resources. This program aims to slow and stop the spread of terrestrial invasive species, so the ones that occur on land, not so much focused on aquatics, through changes in behavior. So Play Clean Go started in Minnesota State as an education initiative to stop the spread of invasive species in parks and natural areas. In late 2016, the CCIS entered into an agreement with Minnesota that enabled CCIS to adapt and implement Play Clean Go stop invasive species in your tracks as a national branded program across Canada. PlakelandGo.org is now run by NISAW, and when we adopted it, CCIS adopted it, we worked closely with NISAW to encourage partners to that were from Canada and were part of the .org organization to kind of move over to our .ca PlakelandGo campaign. All right, so some of our current resources under this program. So like CCIS's other Take Action campaigns, PlakelandGo applies community-based social marketing to build brand recognition through partnerships to support Canadians to take action that will slow or stop the spread. So there are a number of resources completed, including fact sheet templates, posters, sticker templates, rack cards, boot brushes, and boot brush signages for the front of trailheads and things like that when a boot brush is installed. Basically, how to use it, what's the problem, that sort of thing. You can see some of these samples in front of you. The boot brushes are actually for purchase, and you can buy them for $3 plus GST. If you are interested, just reach out to me. You can see my email there at the bottom left of the screen. So just reach out to me there. The resources listed are free for download otherwise, and are as is for print. However, if you require changes, so for example, if you want to add your logo, perhaps change the picture of the species on the poster, we actually require you to become a partner to do that. So our PlakelandGo partnership program helps to strengthen this campaign and messaging across Canada. When new partners join, it supports the sustainability of the program, and it also helps with the capacity, kind of builds capacity for the program development. On the PlakelandGo.ca website, groups can sign up as a partner and receive access to all the resources created, and you can also tailor them to suit your organization's unique needs. So perhaps adding, like I said, your logo, or maybe a species that's a specific problem on a specific trail that you wanna touch base on. So for those interested, you can see there's the different levels on the screen: supporter level, level 1, and level 2. So the goal of the supporter level is to encourage individuals to personally adopt a behavior change program, behavior change program. Supporters are individuals who pledge to adopt PlakelandGo and serve as a role model to encourage others to join. So then level 1 and level 2 are meant for organizations looking to implement PlakelandGo in their region. The main difference between the two levels being that level 2, you actually receive 2 free hours of graphic design services from CCIS to kind of tailor those resources or create your own new resource. So although we do not have specific dedicated funding to continuously add resources to this PlakelandGo program, as we continue to grow and we get more partners on, that kind of helps to build the resource library. So new partners signing up and creating their own resources, it just allows more resources out there for other people to share. So in the next few weeks, we're actually going to be looking at reviewing some of our partner levels, making adjustments to the program, and we're actually looking for any suggestions. So if you've read this and you're interested in it and maybe see some room for improvement, feel free to pop that into the chat box, and Kelly and I will collect those suggestions. That'd be great. All right, so now to move into the main portion, we'll have our first speaker from the Yukon Invasive Species Council. So Andrea Altherr is the part-time executive director of the Yukon Invasive Species Council. She lives in Whitehorse and has been involved in spreading awareness on invasive species since 2008. Andrea will be presenting on the PlakelandGo in the Yukon and will highlight the development and implementation of 4 boot brush and bike brush stands in Whitehorse. She also shares some challenges and successes that she kind of went through when implementing the program.
Hello everyone, I'm Andrea Altherr, and thanks for the introduction, and it's great to be part of this webinar. On this first slide here you see where the Yukon is. We are in the top corner there towards the west. Our neighbors are Alaska and BC, as well as the Northwest Territories. And the program we have implemented, the PlakelandGo, is mainly situated around Whitehorse. And this is the map on the left side where you see that circle. So there is not that much road access through the Yukon, and most of the population lives in Whitehorse or greater area of Whitehorse. So that's what we have been focusing on right now. But we are currently expanding the program to the west, to the next community, which is Haines Junction. So the Yukon Invasive Species Council goes back to 2004, and we were officially a non-profit organization. We became it in 2008. And I think I have been participating in the very first meetings with the Canadian Council. So the Yukon has a long history partnering with other councils across Canada. And I think it's really important that we are all using the same branding, and I'm focusing a lot while I work on campaigns on using the same branding as everyone else does. Yukon's population is relatively small. We have about 35,000 people, and most of them are living in around Whitehorse. The Yukon Invasive Species Council is the only organization addressing invasive species in the Yukon. So there is no other organization that has it in its mandate. We do have a little bit of support through the Department of Environment. They do some outreach programs regarding aquatic invasive species. But the rest is really on our shoulders, and with our shoestring budget, we just can't tackle a lot of different things. Since there's a lot of funding available right now for aquatic invasive species, the Yukon Invasive Species Council is expanding into those other programs like Clean, Drain, Dry. So currently we are mostly concerned about terrestrial species. We do have around 150 introduced plant species in the Yukon, and of course not all of them are labeled as invasive. Another thing to note is also we don't have any regulations, so we don't have designated plant species that would be noxious weed or anything like that. We don't have any regulation. And this sometimes makes our work a little bit difficult because everything is strictly on voluntary base here. We do have a high priority list of 20 species, and there is mostly plant species, but we include also the zebra and quagga mussels, which we don't have here in the Yukon, and we hope we can keep them out for a little bit longer. The first time I came across a boot brush stand was in Skagway, which is in Alaska. They had set up a couple boot brush stands there on popular trailheads, and I felt that's a great idea, especially to raise awareness on invasive species and to encourage people to take action. So I started looking into the material, and as Gabby mentioned, the program has started in Minnesota. So I tapped into the resources that were available through Minnesota, and I started developing our own program. I did some posters, and I came up with those boot brush signs, and it was really easy to adapt the material that was provided. And again, as I mentioned, the branding is really important. So, and the setup of the whole boot brush stand is exactly the same as the template is. You see in the picture on the left side, that's the boot brush stand in Skagway, and on the right side you see the sign that has been developed through YISC. So we started out with boot brush stands, and we wanted to raise awareness about other trail users as well, that they can take action and prevent the introduction and the spread of invasive species. So we developed a bike brush stand as well. So that would be next slide. So here you see one of the bike brush stands. So the concept is exactly the same stand, but there is a boot brush, that blue thing there in the picture, sorry, a bike brush. It's a bike brush attached with a cable to the stand. And then we adapted also the sign to include tire tracks and the person brushing the tire of a bike. But everything else is strictly kept the same, so that if people have seen one of these signs in one location, they instantly recognize what it is talking about, and I hope it's encouraging people to take action. We kept the boot brush on the stand as well. There is no indication on how to use it, but we felt it's really easy. People instantly will know what to do if they see a brush. So we felt we don't need to include this in the sign. So the bike brush stands, they were set up in locations where we felt more mountain bikers would be using the trails. And the boot brush stands are in locations where we felt mostly walkers would be using the trails. Just to talk a little bit about the species we included. In the center lower row there, we have the white sweet clover, which is probably the most spread invasive species in the Yukon, and you might not even be aware of it. I think it's mainly a problem in the north, so Northwest Territories, the Yukon and Alaska have a widespread white sweet clover population, and it's mainly concern along the roads. It grows really well along the roads, and it just restricts visibility, and animals like to eat it, and then it could be a potential hazard for conflicts with cars and animals that just wouldn't go over that well. So we felt as being the most widespread plant, we wanted to include it in the sign. Bottom left, we have greater butter and eggs, or common toad flax, because it's in all our communities, growing in people's garden. And again, it's raising awareness about those common species people love to plant in their gardens, but we really would like to keep them out. Bottom right, we have perennial sow thistle, which starts to pop up along the roads, and it's mainly a concern to the agriculture sector, so we would like to reduce the spread of that species. And then the biggest picture is the tufted birdwedge, and last year that was our species of the year, because we have not widespread patches of tufted birdwedge yet, and we felt it would be great to reduce the spread of that plant as long as we can. And tufted birdwedge is very unique because it starts growing over in the forest and enveloping plants and whole forest edges. Yeah, why don't we have giant hawkweed or anything like that on the sign? Very simple, because we just don't have it. So this is a little bit of a challenge for us in the Yukon. We don't have all those sexy species because they just haven't arrived here yet. So we have to stick to maybe species you are not even aware of because they don't grow further south. So the project, in this picture here, you see a trailhead. It's a trailhead where bikers and walkers are parking and starting an outing. So we felt this is a good location. And last year we had a summer outreach coordinator engaged. We could hire a person, and we are lucky we have again someone helping us with the outreach this summer. And I hope this person can further this program for us. So originally we had some financing through EcoAction, which is a federal program. And it's always great to have the startup money, but EcoAction only provides money for startup projects and no ongoing support. This is probably a problem everyone has difficulties with. There's just no supporting money to keep a program running. So we are stuck with those 4 boot brush stands for now, and I don't see that we can expand the program unless we get partners on board that actually can help finance those stands. As I mentioned, I took over the graphic material from Minnesota, and once the Canadian material was developed, especially the logo with the .ca on it, I included that, and that was in time before we started printing the signs. There was also a plan for stands provided, which I used. I took the plan to the local welding shop, and they welded those stands for us. I already talked a little bit about the selection of the species, and the selection of the locations. I would say we were pretty successful, but maybe we should have talked more to the local community of mountain bikers and walkers. Maybe they would have come up with better suggestions, but that's where the stands are now, and we will have to find out if they are widely used. So far we had not time or finances to do a study how they were received. We had a contest going on Facebook. We encouraged people to take a picture while they were using it, and we had 0 entries, even though we offered a gift certificate for $50. So I think there's some need to push a little bit more on this program this summer, and I'm looking forward to working on this. The cost of a boot brush stand. So the stand itself, it's welded, so which means quite costly. So it was around $900 per stand. For the sign itself, we went with dye bond, and that was roughly $150 per sign. And they were printed in a local shop here as well. We had a contractor hired with some machinery to place those stands, and each one was roughly $250 to be installed. The boot brush I bought at Canadian Tire was roughly $50, and then the bike brush was less than $10 at the local bike shop. We also had in-kind support with the site selection. We had a person from the city of Whitehorse helping us selecting the site. It was important also to have a little bit an idea where there are already signs set up and where it would make sense to have an additional sign to complete the message. The graphic work, as I mentioned, we could do in-house, and also the project management. As Gabby mentioned, there is a sign up now if you want to tap into the material provided and if you want to adapt it to your needs. I think it makes the most sense that you can highlight species that are relevant to the area where that stand is placed. It just makes sense to work it out that way. I came across a little write-up on playcleango.org about how effective boot brush stands are. So the bottom line is it's research done in Illinois. They looked at how much those bristles on the boot brushes were worn off to have an indication how often they are used. And they also looked at the plants growing under the stand itself, and they found quite a variety of invasive plants growing there, which means they could potentially have been brushed off boots when people were using the stands. Their big conclusion was a regular maintenance on the stand location is very important. You know, if there's a lot of weeds growing around the stand, people probably will hesitate a little bit to use it. So make sure it's nice and clean. In the slide before we picked a sandy area to set up our stand. First of all, it's easier to dig holes in sand than if you have a rocky area where you want to place your stand. And second, it's much easier to keep it clean. As I mentioned, we haven't really looked into how well our stands are used. I hope we can look into this summer. We have been working a little bit on posters. So on the right side, I adapted one of the templates that was available and just added our own logo and a little bit of text. Again, it's Clean Go, that's the common branding, and those posters can be tailored to a lot of different trail users. We had one for ATV users, for bikers, hikers, and for dog walkers with a dog on it. I haven't really done much more with those posters, and I don't think I have really put enough effort in distributing them. So there's always room for improvement. New, we had a local artist making a beautiful drawing highlighting 4 actions that we would like people to take part in. So one you see in this little clip of the painting, it's cleaning, washing a bike. We also have ATV washing, boat washing, and weed pulling in the picture. And those little clips of that beautiful painting will be used to create our own Play Clean Go material, and we definitely will include also the common branding that people recognize what this will be about. This is this summer's project. Challenges and notes. Maintenance, I just checked our stands, so they are up since a year now. And I just cleaned them, that, any dirt that fell on it or leaves, I removed that they look nice again. And there has been basically no wear on those signs. They all are in really great shape. Last summer I had to replace one bike brush. Someone took it along for their own usage, and I think that's something that's probably will be an ongoing problem. But otherwise, for a little bit grass removal, there was really nothing I had to do this spring. I think those stands probably will last a long time since they are welded, and the dye bond sign, they usually give that a life expectancy of 5 years. So over the long term, we probably will have to renew those signs at one point. I don't know how effective they are, but they're out there, and I hope people start using them. As I mentioned, we received some startup money, and now we are looking for partners that want to carry this project into the communities. We are hoping to work together with Kluane National Park in Hinds Junction, that they will set up a stand. We have been in connection with the territorial parks, and we hope to have some boot brush stands set up there. Again, it always comes down to financing can be a challenge. I don't think there is any other groups, like non-profit groups in the Yukon that are in the position to pursue any boot or bike brush stands. I think that's probably will just fall into our tasks, and over the time, I hope we can raise some more money to have more boot brush stands available. As I mentioned, the graphic material is really easy to adapt, and the biggest benefit to me is I think it's a great awareness piece. It can be posted in your newsletters, it can be spread out to user groups. We potentially will have some events starting at the bike or boot brush stand. We will partner with the mountain bike community, and hopefully we can raise just a lot of awareness about people taking action, and everyone, we are all in this together, everyone can contribute to this. Yeah, that's about it. So we have seen 3 stands in those pictures. So this one again would be a bike brush stand because it's on a popular bike trail. So those 2 people obviously didn't stop to brush their bike or read the sign. I hope they had done it before. So that's all from me, and I'm happy to answer your questions later.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. That was a really informative presentation, a good look at what's going on and how Plague Go is being implemented in the fields. All right, so we did just hear from Andrea from the Yukon Invasive Species Council. And now we're going to be hearing from Kim Kaiser from the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society. So Kim is the Education Outreach Coordinator, and she received her Bachelor's of Science in Biology from the University of Victoria in 2014 and has since been actively working in the fields of invasive species management and environmental education. She came to the CCIS after working with the BC Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy and the Invasive Species Council of BC. In winter or summer, you can find Kim making art and exploring the mountains around Revelstoke with her mountain bike and snowboard. The Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society works together with recreation groups and local organizations to promote Plague Go messaging to target audiences and key locations throughout the region. In this presentation, we will learn about the successes, challenges, and of implementing Plague Go and how CCIS uses community-based social marketing strategies to help guide their program.
Hi everyone, and thanks for having me. Thanks Gabby for the introduction. My name is Kim Kaiser and I'm the Outreach Coordinator with the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society, or CCIS, and we are a regional nonprofit invasive species organization in the Columbia Shuswap region. Okay, so this is just a brief overview about what I'm going to talk about today. So firstly, I want to speak to why Plague Go is important in our area, how we've connected with other organizations to deliver the messaging. I'll talk a little bit about how we use community-based social marketing to help guide our programming and efforts in regards to Plague Go. I'll show some resources that we've made in-house using the Plague Go graphic standards and branding. And then throughout these topics, I'll discuss the successes and challenges that we've had. I'll also touch on what we hope to do with Plague Go in the future, and then I'll leave you with some take-home messages about the lessons that we've learned so far. So this is our region. So it is quite a large geographical area of BC, and in each of these sections, Golden, Revelstoke, Salmon Arm, and Sicamous, they're all year-round tourist destinations for Canadian as well as international tourists. So we have 3 national parks as well as several BC parks within our region, and these bring hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of visitors per year, partly because we're situated along the Trans-Canada, but mostly because this area is known for its rugged beauty and its extensive hiking and biking trail systems. So it's really a destination for all kinds of mountain-based recreation. It's also a destination for water recreation, boating and kayaking, and that brings all sorts of different invasive species as well. But today we're going to focus on terrestrial recreation and Play Clean Go. So we're really lucky to have vast areas of pristine alpine environments in our region, and we really want to ensure that it stays that way. In fact, Revelstoke is situated in the world's only temperate inland rainforest. Yeah, so it's a really unique ecosystem, and protecting it from the impacts of invasive species is really paramount. Since Play Clean Go is focused on recreation and trail users, it's a really important and essential part of our outreach programming. And although it's important that everyone, including local users, clean their gear, we really want to ensure that visitors to our region receive the Play Clean Go messaging, since they're at the highest risk of introducing novel species. So one of the ways that we ensure that visitors get this message is by teaming up with tourism organizations and the regional district that provide trail maps and signage to include the Play Clean Go messaging in their materials. So this is what it might look like in one of the maps, and it's often included in the rules of the trail or the safety tips and tricks section. And we really try to have it included there because then it's seen as a social norm, something that everybody does and that is just expected. Just as you would take safety precautions when you visit a trail, you also want to clean your gear. This year we have the Play Clean Go messaging being included on some large kiosk signs that are being installed throughout the region at really busy locations in the Shuswap. And yeah, it's really great because it has the Play Clean Go messaging front and center on those signs, and right with the trail maps and all of the other kind of important information that visitors need to get. So just in general, in our experience, it's really great to have the Play Clean Go or any messaging included in partner resources that are already widely distributed, because then it avoids printing materials that you don't know if people are going to actually use them. So it's just good to have it included on those resources that are already made for targeted audiences. Over the past few years, they've been installing aluminum signs at trailheads. We've installed them in over 30 locations, and they have attached boot brushes. So people get the message, and then they have the boot brush there. Just kind of also was the same as Andrea's presentation, where they're able to actually practice the behavior while they're reading the message. So it's really great. Yeah, so this is sort of a map of where they're installed throughout the region. This isn't all the trail signs, but you can see they're widely distributed, and then some of the busier trail systems have quite a few of them. So Gabby talked a little bit about community-based social marketing, but I'll just explain it again. So to help guide our programming, we use community-based social marketing, and it utilizes the social nature of people to help influence positive behavior change. And in this case, the behavior change that we want people to do is to clean their gear. And the goal is to find the key to have people want to change their behavior and to help them overcome barriers to making that change. The overall idea is that actual behavior change is required to reduce the spread of invasive species, and that giving information may change people's minds, but only if the change is really easy and only if they remember at the right time and have the necessary resources. We used a model by Doug Mackenzie Moore to help develop surveys to survey trail users at trailheads to help see if the signs and the boot brushes were being used and if they were effective. So these were some of the questions that we asked trail users. We asked them where they were from, if they were local, interregional, maybe international. Were they primarily a mountain biker or a hiker? Maybe other, are they like a horseback rider, an ATVer? Do they Play Clean Go? If so, how, where? Did they have prior knowledge of Play Clean Go? What are their perceived benefits to cleaning their gear, and what are their barriers? And then have they seen or used the existing sign and boot brush, and did we actually observe them using the boot brush? So these were some of the results. First of all, when we asked people where they cleaned their gear, most of them said they cleaned them at their gear at home. And this is because a lot of the people we ended up serving were locals, so that makes sense. Some people did say at wash stations or the car wash. We were hoping to get to get hikers and mountain bikers, but we ended up interviewing mostly mountain bikers. So people said that the benefit to them was just bike maintenance and having a clean bike. Some people did say to reduce the spread of invasive species, but we're not sure if they said that just because they thought that's what we wanted to hear or if they had actually seen the sign before. When we asked people about barriers, most people said either time or a lack of wash stations. So that makes sense. It has to be, if you want people to change their behavior and to practice something, it has to be really easy and efficient and accessible. So these were our options. After completing these surveys, we were trying to use them to help guide our efforts. So one of the things we could do was link information about bike maintenance, which was the benefit to them, to preventing the spread of invasive species, which is the aim of the program. We could advertise this information at local bike shops, or we could get sales and repair professionals and race organizers engaged. Or options were to either promote local bike wash locations, or to possibly get funding to install a standalone bike wash station at a busy trailhead. But it's very complicated and really costly, and you have to think about access to water, and then if people are washing off invasive plant seeds, where those seeds are going to end up. So what we actually ended up focusing on was just promoting and providing signs for already existing bike wash stations. So there were quite a few bike wash stations at cafes or at resorts around our region. So we just connected with them and asked them to put up a sign about why people, kind of just like thanking people for using the bike wash station to help prevent the spread of invasive species. And this is at the base of Mount Revelstoke, Revelstoke Mountain Resort, at their bike park there. In our region, we also have a number of prominent running and biking races, and these bring a large number of participants and viewers. So we did trial having our outreach at these events. However, it was pretty difficult when all of the viewers and the participants are really just focused on the race, and they didn't necessarily have time to engage with us or to chat about invasive species. So one of the things we did do was to have a booth at registration day instead. Often there's an event that comes before the actual race that's more social and people are more relaxed and have time to speak with you. So we had some info booths at the registration events. And this is a resource we developed that's just actually a large chloroplast sandwich board. So it's quite tall and it stands at our outreach booth, and it just has the click and go information, and people walk by and they see this, and it gets them curious, and then they come into the booth and chat with us. So we use the graphic standards to develop this. Yeah, so while having a presence at the major trail events can be helpful, what we actually found worked best was to supply the race organizers with information that can actually be included in the race packages. And this is a package of materials that goes out to all of the participants, and you can just like keep clicking through. Yeah. So this is one of the print flyers, and on the back it has information. And then you can also use them as to do social media posts. So we'll supply the race organizers with all of this like graphic material for their social media channels, and then with suggested wording that they can use so that they can ask participants to arrive to the race with clean gear or to use the bike wash station that's provided, things like that. And we're not sure how much the race organizers actually posted to their media channels, but we're hoping that that's something that they'll do in the future. There's just a few more examples of what these materials look like. And again, we use the graphic standards and some of the templates to make these. And we just added photos from our own region to make them local to our area. So this is what a bike wash station at an event could look like. And yeah, it's great for engaging youth. They love to come by and like splash around in the water and clean their own bikes. So if you have a trail event that's really like family oriented, it's good to try and set up just even a small bike wash station, and that helps get people engaged and get the message across. Yeah, and we did purchase the boot brushes from the Canadian Council, and we have those at our display booth. People can purchase them by donation. And then we also, if we're doing some sort of Play Clean Go presentation with a rec group or a group of volunteers that are doing trail work or restoration, we'll provide them with a few boot brushes for their group. So we give them away to all sorts of rec groups and volunteer groups that we're working with, so that they can have it to brush their gear before they go in to do work. So these are some of our future plans. We're really hoping to get funding to be able to install larger boot brush kiosks, as many people around the country and in the US have installed these and had a lot of success. And also when we were doing our surveys, some of the feedback we got was that the small trailhead signs, people just weren't seeing them. They would kind of just like walk right by them because they blend in with other signs. There often is a lot of signs at trailheads, so having a big interpretive kiosk would be really great. And we're hoping to be able to install one at least at a busy BC Park location. And the other thing we did was just make a flyer that can go in hunting license packages. So when people get the rules and regulations book, it's just included in there so they can get that message as well. So some of the things that we learned is that relationships with rec groups and race organizers are really essential. And finding those social champions to help promote the message for us to their audience. So someone like an athlete or a race organizer that's a really trusted member of that community, if they actually say the Play Clean Go message to their community, it's received quite well. And utilizing tourism organizations and regional district resources to help promote the message. And some of the feedback we got is that most people do already keep their gear clean, but not because of invasive species, and that's okay. And also advertising locations where people can wash their bike and providing signage for those areas. Great, so that was my presentation, and if you have any questions, you can ask them.
Great, thank you so much. That was excellent, very informative to see it again on the ground in a different region. Very cool. Yeah, so I want to thank Andrea and Kim for those informative presentations. Both provided great ideas that I'm sure will be useful to some of our listeners here today. So now we're going to move into the Q&A period. We do only have about 4 minutes left, 3 minutes now of the hour. So we are going to continue and go over the hour. So yeah, hopefully no one minds staying a little bit longer just to get those questions going. So again, if you can submit them to the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen and just indicating which presentation they're for, that would be great. So have our first one here from Ken Donnelly, presentation 1. So Andrea, why did you choose a metal for the boot brush sign structure?
Good question. Probably it lasts for a long time. One thing I really would like to point out, whatever you are setting up, people want to hold on to something while they are brushing their boots. So make sure it's enough metal frame around your sign. I think it really doesn't matter if you're using wood or metal. I don't know if wood will last that long, but it probably would work too.
Awesome. So we have another question, and this is for both presentations, or applies to both. Several slides made reference to design/specifications of the stand and sign. Can these specifications, both for the bike and foot versions, be made available? And maybe Andrea, if you have something you want to add to that, you can go first.
I think there are two different signs in the package. for the graphic design. And I tried to combine the two, and it just didn't work out. I think it gets too busy. So that's why we stuck with a specific bike brush stand and a specific boot brush stand. I'm not sure if that's answering this question.
Okay. And I'm wondering, maybe Kelly, if you can jump in on this as well, if there's design and specifications available for the boot brush or bike.
At this point, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, at this point, not on our website yet, but it's something that we want to get done and up on our website for this coming year. So when people come to us, we're there to help design the signs, but unfortunately we don't have like the structural details related to the boot brush sign. So I've been directing partners to other people that I know that have done, like Andrea and also Waterton National Park, and they've been able to supply that information. But hopefully we can get something in place that we can provide like a guide of our how-to with the stands and things like that on our website. I'm not sure if I'll ever get to the point with like actually being able to distribute the actual parts of a boot brush stand and things like that, but we definitely want to try to provide the best information that we can in regards to helping people move forward with those. I hope that helps.
Oh, definitely.
But I think, I think Andrea provided her contact information, and then obviously Gabby, you too. Like I have been linking people up. I'm sure Kim and Andrea would help with that. Like if someone wanted to reach out to you guys to get some assistance, like I think that's the number one question that I've been getting lately, is just like how to and where to start and where do you guys go to get like help building them and things like that.
Awesome. And Kim, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's kind of the stage that we're at as well. And I've reached out to other organizations in BC, and they've given me some of the templates that they used. So I'm happy to share what I have so far for that. And I think maybe, I'm not totally sure, but I think Minnesota has a template on their website of just like a general boot brush station design.
Yeah.
It's for the wood version.
Yeah.
Awesome. So a few places we can go to, but if anyone's wondering, you can just reach out to Kelly or myself, and we can connect you to Kim or Andrea or anyone else. Yeah. Okay, so next question, Nancy's saying, excellent presentation. Can both of these presentations be made available to use in the office for discussion and possible implementation for our area? So we will be recording the webinar, and I'm sure we can talk after to each of our presenters to see if they want to share their presentations afterwards, but webinars will be recorded and posted hopefully next week.
I just have a quick question, because I don't see another one up, but I was curious, and maybe I missed this somewhere in both your presentations, but I was just pulling up Kim's just to double check. Like a lot of it, what you guys are doing is tailored towards like biking and hiking. Are you guys, is there anything to do, have you guys done any work towards like, or maybe it's just not popular in your area, like ATV use, or like have you guys had any like questions in regards to like work clean go or just other aspects of like the whole Play Clean Go program?
Yeah. So in our region, we did focus quite a bit on the trail users like hiking and biking. But so for ATVing, we've done in the past just presentations to ATVing clubs. And there are some of the like trail signs on ATV roads as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that is actually something we're going to try and focus on a bit more in the future, is the other groups like horseback riding, ATVing, and hunting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Andrea, is there much ATVing in your area?
Yeah, there's a ton. So we try to reach out to motorcycles, like off-road motorcycling and ATVing. We haven't really been super successful, but the common comments of that user group was they like to keep their gear clean. And most of them will wash it at home, and there is like no public wash station available in the Yukon except for car washes.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I just saw Ken, thank you, Andrea. I just saw Ken put in the chat box that he has some detailed sign design information, and he shared a link to the New York Prism boot brush. So I think we'll post that. Well, he shared it for everyone, but we'll definitely get that up on our website. I think that's the easiest thing for us to do is share that information. So
definitely, we can definitely do that. Is there any further questions? We can wait a little second just to see if any more come in.
Sorry, Gabby, there's just one in the chat box. I have it open.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't want to
sure.
cut you off, but it said, are the handheld boot brushes with the Play Clean Go branding available to order? Yes, they are. So you can email myself or Gabby. We had a slight delay because our shipping of them comes out of BC. So there was a slight delay with everything that's going on, but I think we're back on track and being able to ship. So you can email Gabby or myself to get an order in for the boot brush, the handheld ones, not the stand ones.
And I have another question here from Ron. He says, how frequent do you inspect these stations? So maybe we'll start with Kim on this one.
Yeah, so that's something that we did. We have been having to replace the handheld boot brushes. And we kind of we've asked, like, we're in contact with some, like, trails working groups in the area. So we just ask people to let us know if they see a boot brush that's in need of replacement. But I'd say of ones that were installed 2 years ago, I've maybe replaced 5 of them. So I don't know for how long, like how often to inspect them, but so far, like, I've had to replace a few every 2 years that we've installed them.
Okay.
So I check on them in summertime, which is from May to September. I'm checking on them at least once a month, and then in winter I didn't do anything.
Okay, awesome. And we have another question here from Francine. She says, I liked the waterfowl hunting Play Clean Go public service announcement in the second presentation. There was a reference of including that with hunting licenses. Can you provide additional details about this?
Yeah, so that was the flyer that went in the hunting licenses. So I think that's what she's referring to. Mm-hmm. In areas at locations that sell and distribute the hunting license for our region, we just are in contact with the people that sell them or distribute them, and they're hopefully going to include those flyers, just a paper version in the regulations booklet.
Awesome.
Yeah, hope that answers it.
Oh, Francine says thanks. So I think you did answer her question. Awesome. Yeah, so again, a big thank you on behalf of the Canadian Council and everyone listening to Andrea and Kim for those great presentations. It's really interesting to see how these programs get applied and all the nitty-gritty details that go into it, because that's what's really useful. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. And this concludes the third and final webinar of the 2020 National Invasive Species Awareness Week webinar series. And remember to use hashtag NISAW and hashtag invasive species on social media posts this week when promoting invasive species prevention in your region. You can see those hashtags on the screen in front of you as well. So thank you all for joining, and we'll hope to see you next time. Take care.